This summer, my garden was less of a harvest, but more of a classroom. So, might know I'm an educator. I was straight up in a classroom. So, I had to deal with pests, fears, mysteries, and all things that were unanticipated, but there were some wins that I'm very happy with. So let's talk about it. Welcome to my garden lesson. I'm Maudlin. I garden in Zone 7B on Long Island in New York, and I'm going to tell you guys some of the garden lessons that I've learned for the 2025 garden season, the spring and the summer. So, lesson number one, aphids. I had aphids all over this area. And that's because, well, aphids are non beneficial insects. They just suck on your, live on your plants and make it very hard. And they fly. They're just not beneficial. You don't want them in your garden. The best way to deal with them is as soon as you see them, get rid of them. My problem was I did not know what they were. I literally had to watch YouTube, University of YouTube, other gardeners, and type in the type of insects that I was seeing in my garden. And then I learned that they were aphids. That took about 3 days for me to just find out what I was dealing with and how to proceed. And so what I did was I created a solution, which I did a video about. I'll link it below, of castile water, castile soap, neem oil, and cayenne pepper. And I sprayed the affected plants and the area for 3 days. 3 days. And then after 3 days, um, I realized that they were hiding because there was space for them to hide. There was space for them to not hiding, but there was space for them to grow because I had neglected this area where they were most. I noticed them more. They were more prolific in that area. So that brings us to lesson number two. Lesson number two: don't ignore your garden for very long. Okay, lesson number two is a very real lesson for me. What you see behind me here, I'm using a mic because my audio has to be better. So, a few weeks into the garden season, I spotted, okay, I spotted a garden snake. Um, I am from the city. I now live in the suburbs, but from the city. I'm a city girl. I do not like reptiles. And snakes are the top of the list for me. And so when I saw that, it is a tiny garden snake. I screamed to the point where my neighbors across the fence here were like, "Are you okay?" I screamed and I did not come back to my garden about a couple of days later. So in the area that I noticed the little snake, which was this area, I then neglected that area, which was wrong of me. I neglected that area. I neglected the plants that lived there. It was just a turnoff. And what I learned was that when you have a garden, you have to work with nature. You can't pick and choose which parts of nature suits your needs the most. Nature is going to you're going to have to work with nature. It's not going to work with you. And if you work with it, it will work with you, but you have to be the one that bends, okay? And so started researching garden snakes and how they're beneficial and how they help keep some of the other pests away. And it's like, well, okay, I understand it's a system, and um I'm part of that system. I am not um I'm not any different, right? So I just had to learn to accept it and deal with it. So the aphids were like a big sign of a disarray, right? I was not keeping up my garden, and that had to do with fears because I spotted a garden snake and it just kept me away. So that's that. Lesson number three. So one was the aphids, two was the neglect and seeing the garden snake. Lesson number three was that I planted my watermelon seeds way too late into the season, and so I planted my watermelons in June, and I was expecting a harvest. So I did get, this is my watermelon plant. It actually, it took it back. This is the watermelon plant. And I actually had, it's dying back. I actually had, um, I saw a baby watermelon and I was so excited. But now we're into the fall season. Like it's actually, I woke up and it was 59 degrees in my zone. And it was like, what the hell? So we're actually full swing into the fall season. Now there are some days that it might go back to being hot again. But yeah, it's we're slowly creeping into the fall season. So I've always had troubles growing melons. Like I've never successfully grown. I have grown watermelon, but I've never grown cantaloupes or honeydew or any of those. It just don't work for me. I just don't have the. I don't know. I just don't have that. So next season, I will start my watermelon seeds indoors, and plant them as early as I can, like 2 weeks after my last frost, to ensure that I get to enjoy seeded watermelon. So here is my biggest lesson, and I'm still learning this lesson. My apple tree, this apple tree behind me, we don't really get along. We don't. When I do my morning stroll, I kind of ignore it now because we really don't get along. So I saw that a few YouTubers, and I did this last year, and I didn't notice. This is still new to me that it took back most of the apples when I did this last year. So I did a video where I showed that I covered the apples because I wanted them to get bigger. I was hoping to make apple butter because Kim from Kim's Cozy Corner makes this, apple butter that I wanted to try it too. And maybe show you guys my version next year. Well, it didn't work out that way for sis. So I covered this apple tree with some um what do you call it? These uh green mesh green paper cloths, or I still have them, but I'll put a picture. And I thought I was doing a great thing. I said, okay, this year I want to get more bigger apples, and so I'm going to cover my apple tree, the apples, I mean, and yeah, get bigger apples because what happens is that you have these worms that and these insects that get inside the apple, and that is it, right? But it didn't work out for me. The apple tree dropped all of the apples. When I did this last year, I did it a lot later into the season, so I didn't notice that I was getting fewer apples. But this year I did it earlier by like almost 6 weeks, and it dropped all of my apples. I'm not sure why it did that. I'm not sure what's happening. We didn't plant this apple tree. I don't know. Its energy is or my energy and its energy don't really sync up that well. It dropped all the apples, and it is not bearing any fruits right now, and I can't for the life of me figure out what I did wrong, what happened. So if any of you have done this or experienced this with this fruit tree just not cooperating, or I should not have covered this, I've seen other um, gardeners do this on YouTube, and they didn't mention that their tree just dropped the apples. So I'm not sure what I did wrong, but this tree is not happy with me. So next year, but my lesson is for this particular lesson, I will pay more attention to this apple tree behind me and kind of see maybe it just needs to be left alone, and that whatever I get is what I get. Maybe that's the lesson. We'll see. So here are some wins. The lessons are lessons to be learned and reflected upon and do better for next season, which I cannot wait. But here are some wins that I'm happy that I got to experience this gardening season in 2025. I have harvested so many cucumbers and zucchini to the point where I gave a few of them away to my mom and other people. I still have peppers where I don't know. They're still looking pretty good. My peppers, I have them throughout the garden and they're still thriving. I have so much herbs that are drying on their own, and all I have to do is pick them up and put them in a jar. I actually have a tea area. You guys have no idea whew, how happy it is to just make your own tea. Like, I'm at a point where there are some things that I can say came entirely from me and nature. So I'm able to make my tomato sauce, my pasta sauce. Although I buy some of the tomatoes, my tomatoes aren't big enough. I don't collect a lot to make a lot of pasta sauce, but I would say of the number of jars that I have right now, a lot came from my garden. So the basil, about almost half of the tomatoes came from my garden. So I'm very proud of that. When I make teas, when I make chamomile and hibiscus tea, all of that came from my garden. I didn't grow chamomile this season, but I had some from last season. Um, Hibiscus and, oh my God, mint. I gave so much mint away to the point where folks were like, okay, we're cool. Lemon balm. I still have abundance amount that I'm still going to have to dry. And so I had so much fun like experimenting and some of the things that I'm still learning. So I'm not quite ready to share, but I have so many recipes coming from just having abundance. And I think I have videos about that, how grateful I am for nature for teaching me about abundance and discipline and all of that. So although it wasn't when I sketched my season, the season that I wanted to have at the start of the garden season, for me that was in mid-April, and that was my problem because I should have started in mid-March. Um, I I wanted more, but I got so much more in terms of the lessons and the blessings and the harvest and all of that. So I said all that to say I'm easing into the fall garden season, and I'm going to mainly garden on my balcony garden, my kitchen garden on my deck, because it just makes life so much easier for me. I can pay closer attention to that part of the garden and just continue to learn. So thank you for being in this journey with me. What are your garden wins, if you garden, that you learned this season? Please do share. I would love to hear about your experience as well. Thank you so much for watching. Consider subscribing if you haven't, and I'll see you on my next one. Bye now.